Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Depths, back with another Kamihime project video. This one is going to be a new advent for the English side, so I'm going to have to really go over things in this video. It's going to be thunder based, and I did take a quick few peeks at this before. Some of the stuff in here is definitely really good to get, so you probably do want to get your hands on almost everything SSR. But we're going to go into full details on this, and I also should mention that right now we have a voting event as well, and you get more votes by spending AP, and that in turn will get you some event list prizes as well, and you're also able to vote for your favorite Kamihime of each rarity. Combined with the fact that we have an advent makes it a very good time to actually try to do both things at once, because you can grind out the advent, burn through some AP, then go and get the tickets. I think it's 10 AP per ticket, like 10 AP per ticket of each rarity, so I think you get 3 votes every 10 AP. I could be wrong about that, but at the same time, the more AP you burn, the more tickets you get, and you want at least 250 of each element, each rarity, in order to fully complete that list. So if I'm correct, you're burning through 2,500 AP minimum in order to fully clear the vote list. So keep that in mind. But the vote is for almost a month. It's like 2.5 weeks basically. It's like nearly 3 weeks, so it's a long time. But anyways, the typical stuff with this, they have their own little recommendations. Honestly, I could change a few things on that one as usual. I would easily agree with both the Adon and the weapon that doesn't take as many materials per trade. Easily can agree with the Kamihime ticket. The one thing I don't agree with is the special raid ticket, because if you have all of them, then you don't really need this. If you do have it, if you do need some more of them, then what Epic Quest doesn't give you, this will. So it's still dependent on different factors. It's up there in priority, just not that high, if you ask me. What would be higher in priority is actually the gacha tickets, because there is like a huge chance you get our rarity pools, but at the same time, free gacha tickets, go get them. It's just the fact that this is one of the better times to get gacha tickets anyways, the events, because of the fact that the other method you would have to grind it out a little bit. Like they have them in Epic Quest, but they're very easy to get there too, so count it as events. You'd have to grind it a bit if you try to get them through Guardian raids, because you can trade globes for them. Raid medals isn't too bad, but there's other stuff that the raid shop has that you may want to get as well, so that's why it might be a little bit iffy there. Just never ever use tower or guild medals for tickets. They are no longer worth it, because you can get them so many other places. We just had a raid event that gave us 25, almost 25 of them, so I think it was 22 they could give, along with enough magic jewels to get a 10 draw. Speaking of which, aside from the gacha tickets and the grimoires, I can agree with this whole medium priority list. The grimoires, the silver ones, you don't necessarily need as much, I don't think, because you probably won't be burning through those books. It's the gold ones you might burn through, and it's depending on how much SSR you have, or break limits for final weapons and all that. It's dependent on what you really have, but I can definitely agree with the soul points, because we're going to end up burning through quite a bit of them later on. And then the magic jewels is always useful, so they do have a medium priority. Other than that, it's just the same old stuff basically. But 2 SSR weapons, 1 SSR Adon. The first SSR weapon, the one that's low cost, can final break at 1 point, so keep that in mind. And since this is an advent, you're on your own. Run at least expert in order to try and get a lot of this stuff. Ultimate is preferred, and if you can, do it Ragnarok. So keep that in mind. But anyways, skipping through to the fight set, because honestly, anybody can get strong enough to really clear out beginner and standard. Expert should be doable at this point as long as you do all the epic quest stuff. So that's why I usually skip those two. But anyways, going into expert, she has the ability to recover her own HP, so keep that in mind. It is the first action she does whenever you burst. And also it will increase her charge count by 1, meaning she'll probably get 2 orbs, and removes all your enhancements. So she does not like you bursting, so if you're going to burst, make sure you kill her with it. But also she will get a permanent attack buff in raging mode, and also a permanent attack buff when in normal. So you have to keep that in mind. They might end up stacking. So it's more of a case of the longer the fight drags out, the worse it gets. Thankfully her orb count isn't now that great. But if you're strong enough, you probably won't have any trouble with this at all. So there's that. Ultimate is where people usually start having trouble. It's the same stuff when you're taking more damage. But it also says that there's a limit of the recovery amount. It says 8 times. So I think it's like if you somehow end up bursting 8 times, then fine, but I think it's kind of redundant because the fights usually don't last long enough for you to burst 8 times. So there's that. And her orb count pretty much just turns to 3 whenever it's in the Ragnarok fight. But anyways, you have 670,000 HP to deal with on expert. Ultimate is 1.1 million, so it's a little bit over 1 million there, and it's a flat 3 million on Ragnarok. But generally, this is a permanent buff. I don't know if you can erase it. It looks like you might be able to. Yeah, you can remove the buffs, so her attack buffs do need to get removed if you are struggling with the fight, so keep that in mind. And then keep in a factor of bursting whenever you know you're going to kill her or do a lot of damage, because she will heal. So my suggestion is that if you're struggling with the fight, the recommended soul is probably going to be Cassiopeia, because she can remove buffs. If you're capable of doing that, then you're probably going to want somebody that can debuff. And this is one rare time I would probably go with Artanian, or anybody that can reduce defense, basically. If you got D'Artagnan, then you can sit up and reduce attack, defense, and defense can get reduced by 40%. Because you can take Gawain's ambush. So there you go. But if you're getting nuked, you're probably going to need a damage cut. So of course, usually Joan, but there's that. But preferably, you want Hime that can either debuff her, so you can dish out a lot of damage, or you just want to be able to dish out a lot of damage period point blank. So there's that. A lot of later players usually end up having Herc or Shingen anyway, so that's standard. Arthur, if you need somebody to quickly get a burst off to finish her off, but Arthur's kind of iffy. But definitely, if you need buff removal, definitely Cassiopeia. If you need debuffers, then D'Artagnan is probably going to be one of your best bets. And otherwise, you're just going Herc or Shingen, more than likely. But anyways, of course, there's a lot of this usual stuff. I keep seeing the weapon in Adolan EXP spears, but I still have no clue when they're going to show up. They will show eventually. We might actually be near that point, but they'll show eventually. When they do, we'll start getting them instead of the enhancement fodder. So keep that in mind. But anyways, getting into the full details. Litan herself, her attack power sucks, if you ask me, because below 1800 is really not that much at this point in the game. Her HP is kind of high, but what really helps is that her main effect is strong. It is the same as Kenshi's, if anybody remembers her, and the burst gauge up really does a lot. I've tested it out myself. Even with a team that has a very fast burst cycle, it's making you even faster. So that 20% burst gauge up is actually very useful, and if you double stack it, it's 40%, so there's that. Imagine you do a triple and it's pretty much giving you 42 bursts instead of 30. So yeah, that alone speaks for itself. Plus it's elemental attack, and 40% elemental attack seems to be the standard now. The only thing I don't like is her summon effect, because while it does guarantee paralyze, like your next turn you will see the enemy be paralyzed, it has a low chance of landing, if that makes sense. So to really break it down, you have a low chance of it landing, but it's not on a timer. If it does land, it's on a turn count. So no matter what you do, you will see it happen. It is player sided though, so it's not like you'll give it to everybody. So it's not that reliable, but it's definitely helpful when it lands. I also believe the bow can land that effect as well, looking at this, but you're not really going to use it for bursting. Usually you put a soul weapon in the main slot, but the weapon itself is definitely worth it because you get Ascension, which Thunder does have easy access to if you're grinding Guardians, but Ascension always could help if you're not really overcapping it. And it gives Assault, which can turn into large Assault when it final breaks. So there's 2 Thunder bows right there when it repeats. The staff, it comes with Pride and Defender. That's pretty much an Assault Defender combo. That alone makes it worth, but however, it will not final break. So you have to keep that in mind, and it is a harder one to get. But quite frankly, by the time this runs around, you can have 4 decent weapons for your Thunder grid. So there's that. But by then you may actually have it replaced with full guns, because I have to point that out. The Thunder Guardian full, very good with the guns, because it is Assault, Pride. I mean, it's Assault, Vigor, and Ascension. But that said, you're probably not going to get the Ssr Weapons, unfortunately. They're not all that great. And also, the element of the day for this one happens to be fire. So clear ultimate with a fire team in order to get that reward. Everything else is standard clear with a certain amount of rarity. I would just go an R team with ultimate and expert if you can do it. And if you can really do it, R rarity fire team on ultimate to do all of that at once. And then just do the same thing for expert and you're good. And naturally clear without anybody dying. But now that I've mentioned it, I'm actually kind of curious if it is charge. Yeah, it's charging. So yeah, since charging is not affected by time, you don't need to speed up your turn in order to use it. So it is definitely a free turn if it does land, so keep that in mind. So there may be some slight use for doing this, but you can't really rely on it, at least until you get a soul weapon, but I wouldn't worry about it too much. I also don't know if charge counts separately from paralysis. If it does, then you've really got a decent combo, because keep in mind there is a Thunder Kamihime that can cause paralysis if you have her. And paralysis on her can last up to 30 seconds. So if you're really trying to turn delay, there you go. But anyways, that's it for this video. There's not too much more I can really say about it. Also, keep in mind that at some point very soon we should be getting the first batch of the 4th tier souls. So when that happens, it is going to be quite a bit of a grind in order to unlock them. But if you just keep at it, you'll be good to go, because Quite frankly, this game is definitely very grindy. I really cannot stress that enough, but it's not too grindy to the point where it's game breaking, if you ask me, because I've played games that had even worse grinds than that. Like, grinding for stuff that takes months is nothing new to me. I've played a few games where you had to grind for like a year to really do some stuff, and I am not getting on that. In fact, Girls X Battle 2 is one of them, because you are literally limited to what you can do. At one point, they will limit you at player level, and player level only rises on its own. You can't do anything to speed it up, because it is one of those AFK type games. So that's where you can end up waiting a very long time to be able to do something like a year or two easily. And then on top of that, you still got to grind other stuff while that's going on, just to make sure you're prepared. Lengthy grinding games are not really anything new. If you ask me, it gives the game a little bit more weight because of the fact that it's not something you're going to clear so easily. So that's just my opinion. But anyways, that's all for this. More of this is going to come soon, and I also have to mention one last thing as an update. I have ordered a PlayStation 4, so it's on its way. Whenever that happens, you guys will know a video about it, because I'll probably end up doing some test runs off of it, trying to record stuff. But yeah, I will have my hands on some PlayStation 4 stuff, and I will be doing videos off of that as well. So expect some streams at some points. I will make announcements about it whenever I try to do it. Also, keep in mind that it will affect how much I do on some other things, but not too much. So I've never really had a set schedule for uploading anyway. It's just how it is. But anyways, that's all for this. More just going to come soon, and take care.